Hello and welcome to the Dork List. My name's Jordan.
My name's Darian.
And I'm Alan.
Yep. Today we've got a special guest. Our friend Alan is going to be here with us in our special second episode where we're talking all about heroes. But we're going to kick things off by having our little introduction because at the tail end of our podcast today... Spoiler alert! Last half, we're going to be talking about Avengers, Age of Ultron.
So if you do not want spoilers, we're going to do a little pause before the end, or right before we start the part for Age of Ultron. We're going to do a little pause. That'll get you half time to run across the room, turn it off, do whatever, get you off the thing, turn it off. So if you don't want spoilers, we'll put a disclaimer on the podcast too. Just stop listening.
Yeah, we're going to shoot for the last 25 minutes of the podcast today is going to focus on Avengers. And we're going to have like our full-on discussion of it. Because we really haven't had a discussion really per se.
Not yet.
Like even when we were out of the movie theater, we were like, oh yeah, that was really cool. Or like, oh my gosh, that was super awesome.
We were kind of on our rushing our way out. There were cosplayers in the lobby. Me and us and our friend Jeremy were just up and around, talking around everything. Me and our friend Alan over here, usually what Alan and I like to do is discuss the movie, but we didn't get a chance to do that because he had to take somebody home. I had to take people home. We didn't really have a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, and literally as soon as I got out of the theater, it was just like I saw friend after friend after friend after friend and just got in conversation after conversation about other stuff. But yeah, so today at the tail end, in the last 25 minutes of the podcast, we'll be talking about Avengers. Like I said, right now, we're starting out with our introduction and talking about some stuff that's coming up that we want you guys to know about so you can hear about it now instead of having to worry about wading through spoilers to get to stuff at the end. So I guess first up for me, this weekend upcoming, I will be in Ohio for the 2015 Midwest Voiceover Conference.
We're very proud of him for this.
Yep. It's going to be really exciting. I got my new business cards, which several of you guys probably already know since I've posted it everywhere. I got my website up and running, so I'll be putting this on there, as well as my updated demo video. I'm going to try to put on some other stuff too. But yeah. That's what's coming up for me this next weekend. Also this week, Darian, Alan, and I are really excited about the promotional video for Digimon.
Which we'll probably finally learn something about what the series will be about. Hopefully what the direction of it will be. And
an actual release date.
An actual release date. Because apparently we were supposed to give like a week and a half ago.
I mean, like... Well, for the longest time, they told us, hey, guess what? It's going to be in April.
Or spring, because that's not vague at all.
Yeah, so, I mean, if I had to guess, maybe they're going to release it in June or July.
Hopefully.
Like, I mean, as sad as I would be for that to be the case.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
We've been wanting another Digimon series, and especially since we got an inkling that this series and what it might be. We just want this series to be out so we can see where it's going. Whether it's going to be a reboot, whether it's going to be an alternate reality, where the heck is it going? We just want to know.
Yep. So yeah, that's this week. The following week, we're going to ASUN
Together.
Yes.
Darian's actually able to go.
Very exciting. For those that don't know yet, Guidebook, the app that you can download on your cellular device.
We have it. I have it.
Guidebook, they finally have the ASEN schedule on there, which tells you all about the different panels that are going to be there, photo shoot times, a bunch of stuff. It's really handy to download this.
It's not like the Anime Milwaukee one where it was glitchy for some people. It's a really slick, very fluent app. Kudos to the guys who made it. I will personally be in each Digimon one, so
yeah,
you'll find me. Yeah. You'll find me in there.
Yeah. I will be at least one photo shoot on Saturday because I will be cosplaying as Jotaro Kujo from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusaders. So I'll be showing up to the JoJo panel. Thankfully, it's on Saturday. But I may also show up to the fighting game or photo shoot just because I have a fighting game. So there.
Also, update on my personal anime convention thing. Me and my friend Alan over there, he's kind of being quiet because he likes to listen to us talk and then make comments, so if he's quiet, that's why. We're going to be going to Midwest most likely for Friday and Saturday and not the full weekend like that. Purely because both of us can't afford to go for the whole weekend. So we will be there on the 2 big days from start to finish. So if you find us, we'll be doing our panels, 2 panels, hopefully. Digimon panel and Marvel Comics 101. You might remember me from Amkey. If you liked it there, come back, meet some new people, make some friends. That's what the panel is for. And then for Digimon, which we're going to be hopefully doing with our friend Lisa, who is a massive fan of Digimon 2, we're going to be doing that. Also, I submitted my one for GeekCon for Marvel Comics 101. So if you miss me at Midwest, you get another chance to possibly to see me at GeekCon. So quick update from that.
Yep. And maybe, and this is a big maybe, we might be doing a little bit of interviewing at ASEN since we'll be there together for potentially the next podcast, since the next podcast will be taking place obviously after ASEN.
Yeah.
So yeah. But moving along, that's our introduction for this week's episode. And as I said at the beginning of the episode, this week's theme is all about heroes. Superheroes. Anything that can kind of be under like the hero umbrella. We've got a few interesting topics to talk about before we get to Avengers. And the first one that we have is that earlier in the week, we got the news.
Wait. Prepare your inner fanboy.
Prepare your excitement, because it's probably going to go over 9,000 or 8,000 for those of you that love the Japanese stuff.
Because of that comment, you know where this is going.
Dragon Ball is getting a new anime, and the thing is, this isn't your crappy GT stuff. No, this is your bona fide.
I liked GT.
This is your bona fide Akira Toriyama anime. Akira Toriyama approved. Akira Toriyama made.
Akira Toriyama did not make us approve this message.
Right, but that is the distinct difference between what's being made now and GT, because GT was not by Akira Toriyama.
It was the money-hungry jerks who helped people make that.
Yeah,
it was good for the first couple episodes.
I disagree. I completely disagree. I did not like GT. I will be completely honest, because I did not like the approach of how they're like, okay, guess what? We're gonna make Goku a kid again, and we're gonna take away all of the powers and that he trained to get. I wasn't a fan, but I'm excited by this because, plain and simple, the reason why we're getting this anime, I believe, is because of the sheer support that the last 2 movies got in the box office, especially. The one with Frieza that was just recently released in Japan, like a few weeks back. Amazing like turnout from the Japanese population to come see this movie.
We haven't seen it yet. We haven't heard much about it. I don't know if have you seen a synopsis?
I have gotten spoilers on it. I'm because I follow Japanese websites that like for toku and anime and stuff like that. Like, so I'm up to date on like the big plot reveals, but obviously I'm not going to spoil that for people, because the spoilers we have in this episode are the tail end.
There's a spoiler-free podcast besides what we tell you later.
The spoiler-free besides the spoilers. It's so it's going to be called Dragon Ball Cho, or Cho stands for Super in Japanese. And Cho has been used a lot, they said, in talking about Dragon Ball stuff in the past. Whether it's been about the anime, or the video games, or the manga, or other subsidiaries of Dragon Ball. Cho has been a word that's been used quite a bit, and that's why they're using it. And the events of this are going to happen right after, like, the Buu saga. So my question is, where exactly are we going to pick up? because at the end of Dragon Ball Z, Pan was already born.
She was in her first tournament.
And Goku went off with Oob to go train.
This might just be while they're training, or it might be like possibly a year.
Yeah, like, and I'm interested in general to see where they go with it.
I'm not gonna lie though, I kind of would like to see Pan's character kind of translate from the old one, where she was kind of that spunky character.
I would like to see how they take on Pan.
Also, Goten. I don't want to see that girl-loving Goten again.
Yeah.
That Goten sucked. I'm not gonna hide behind it. That Goten sucked. I was disappointed beyond belief because people remember the nice Goten from the Buu saga. That Goten was so full of life. He had like massive views for his own future, and all of a sudden he gets turned into this girl crazy one who. And then look at Trunks, massive switch. He's not a cocky, arrogant jerk anymore.
He kind of became the Trunks from the Cell saga.
Yeah, he became.
He grew up into that Trunks. So that was okay, but again,
like that Trunks, but still.
Again, Dragon Ball GT is just going to be a memory very soon. So
it'll be an alternate universe thing, an AU thing for fandom and fanfiction readers.
But yeah, moving on, we're going to go into Tokusatsu. But we're not going to focus on all Tokusatsu. So
we focus on the big two.
For those that are looking for Garo, you're not going to get it here.
Although I would love to talk about it because I actually watched Garo.
I need to watch it.
You do.
When I finally get to it, because Garo Goldstorm is going on right now.
The Garo anime series is going on?
No, there's a live action Garo.
I know.
Right.
But there's also a Garo anime series.
I know this. I know this, Darian. I know this.
I didn't know you knew this.
How would I not? I'm more up to date on up-to-date anime than you are.
Don't lord it over me!
I'm going to lord it over you. But anyway, the two that we're going to focus on right now are Kamen Rider Drive and Shuriken Sentai Ninja. What do you want to talk about first? Okay,
I have stuff in my mouth.
Darian's got food in his mouth. Okay, so we're gonna go over Ninja first, since we're both pretty into this, up to date on it. This weekend had the introduction, like the official introduction of Star Ninja, who is the 6th Ranger for the team. Did you watch the episode where he made his like mecha debut?
Yeah.
Okay.
I watched that episode. I just kind of want to make a comment. He's kind of like back to like, and I'm sorry to make a Power Rangers reference since we're talking about Tokusatsu, but he's kind of back to that kind of those original 6th Ranger person where they're cocky, they're arrogant, they think they're better than the normal cast, and also big out of the blue for spoiler alert for this. Can I do that? Or no?
Sure.
Let's say it's been up for a week. Alright, spoiler alert, he attacks Granddad of the team, which is not something we'd expect. It's
he attacks the last ninja.
He attacked the last ninja, and we don't even know if the last ninja, like, beat him up or something. We don't know if he beat him up.
Well, I know some of Star Ninja's background. Supposedly, and this is kind of spoilery, like unless you've like read up on like some of like his bio, because it's been out for a few months, because they revealed Star Ninja months ago. He was like in America, that's why he speaks
English or broken English.
He speaks Japanish. He was from America and was inspired by the last ninja to become a ninja himself. He's got several elements from like past Super Sentai 6th Rangers, especially in Hurricaneger with what was his name? The 6th Ranger, the green one. I'm terrible for forgetting his name right now.
We don't remember their names.
But
it's kind of
he is very reminiscent of the 6th Ranger for Hurricaneger. That's just my view on it.
Hopefully we'll get like another Hurricaneger like appearance, especially Because he seems really antisocial in comparison with, like, the rest of the team. And he doesn't really want to be around it, and he's completely going against the grain of what the other team or other
who are we talking about?
Star Ninja.
Well, I mean, like,
I know
today, like, yesterday's, like, new episode where they actually, like, reveal him in that, we haven't seen it yet. I mean, in the preview, though, he's taking a freaking selfie with one of the yokai. So it's a big culture shock kind of deal that's going to be happening when we see him.
So he's kind of like a fanboy, kind of like guy.
In a way. But it's interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting to see the dynamic that he has, because, like, that he brings to the table. Because in the episodes that we've had so far, it's been building up the whole family aspect of the team. Because everyone that is, other than Star Ninja, everybody else is related. Where they're either cousins or the Red and White Ranger are brother and sister. And, like, the whole full family dynamic hasn't been done since Magi Ranger, where they were all family.
Or, no, yeah, since Magi Ranger, and then before that with Go-Go 5? Or, I mean, it was the Lightspeed Rescue thing, but I think it's Go-Go 5.
No, I don't think Go-Go 5 they were related. There might have been, like, one or two people.
It was an entire family of, like, rescue people thingy-majig. I'm right with that, because I remember reading about that.
We'll see.
We'll spoiler check that later.
But, I like how they've been building up the family aspect of it while they're also
competing.
They're competing, because only one of them gets to be the new last ninja.
Which, hopefully, I'm hoping will lead to, I don't know what the heck they call it in Japanese, hopefully a new battleizer for somebody who gets that last ninja title. Or, do you know?
Maybe.
Well, I obviously already know who it is.
I do not want to reveal Okay, so they have a new toy catalog out. Like every month or 2 months or whatever, they release a new toy catalog. Maybe it's quarterly for the year, but they release a new toy catalog which showcases toys that are going to be upcoming in the shows for both, like, Kamen Rider and the Ninja. I'm not going to go into the spoilers though, because if you really want to find out, you can go look it up yourselves, or you can wait for it to happen in the show. But
let's move to Kamen Rider.
Yeah. So Kamen Rider Drive, I personally love it a lot. Like, we just got our third rider 2 weeks ago. Nope. Kamen Rider Chaser.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Which, that has a very interesting team dynamic right now. Because there's so much going on with interest, like, different character relations, murder mystery stuff. It's getting in deep, and this is, like, it's very interesting because this is all leading up to when, in the next month or two, we'll be getting Kamen Rider Drive's Ultimate Form.
FYI, why I'm so quiet right now, I'm not up to date on Kamen Rider Drive right now.
So this is where I'm awesome.
This is where he shines.
Because I love Kamen Rider.
All hail the mighty Jordan.
All hail my knowledge of Kamen Rider. But typically episode 30, 32, or 34 is where we will see Drive's Ultimate Form. And, like, it can depend too, because, I mean, Drive has been following the 2-episode formula, which, if people watched Gaim, they got rid of the 2-episode formula, which was great, because it worked for Gaim. It worked fantastic for Gaim. But, like, the 2-episode formula... 2-episode formula is something that has, like... It's been part of the Heisei era quite a bit. Neo Heisei as well. Because I believe it was Blade. Blade, I'm pretty sure, was the last one that also followed the 2-episode formula, which it worked for it. But I'm excited to see where Drive goes from here, because there are a lot of different things that could happen at this point. Like, things go any way. And I'm not going to spoil any more than that.
Because his co-host doesn't know as much as he does.
Yeah. So, we'll move on into our last topic before we go into Avengers, though. And this is a big topic, so we're devoting quite a bit of time to this as well. We're going to talk about major comic book changes regarding, like, superheroes. We're going to focus on DC and Marvel. What?
And even whole universes, too.
Yeah. We're talking, like single character changes to entire universe changes. So for those of you that are looking forward to Secret Wars, we're going to be talking about it. Yep.
Okay, but anyway, so comic book changes. They're always shocking. They always come out of nowhere.
Some of them do. Some of them are expected, and they're led up to in a way that's great. Yeah. There are some changes that are welcomed wholeheartly.
And then there are changes that people despise
or just come out of completely left field.
Like the current one that Jordan has really kind of brought this up about. Jim Gordon becoming the new Batman.
Yeah. I found out about this earlier in the week. And when I read about this, I was completely caught off guard. I was like, what happened to Bruce Wayne? Why of all people
is he dead again?
Is he dead again? But why is Jim Gordon the one stepping up to take the mantle of Batman?
Instead of Nightwing, instead of Jason Todd, instead of all these people that could do it. Especially with Damian Wayne be coming back from the dead not a couple months ago.
Yeah. But the thing that really, 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 really caught me off guard is that before we recorded today's podcast, I was looking up like an article on it because I wanted to learn more. I wanted to know what the changes were. Because DC, for the main three, and we're talking Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, they're all getting like costume changes.
Oh.
Although they're not as big of an impact as the implications of Batman. Because Jim Gordon, he's not taking your typical Batman suit. Jim Gordon is getting a mech suit.
He's getting a mech. He's getting a bat mech.
A cop bat mech.
Also, one of the
and
big
it looks more like a bunny rabbit than it does a bat.
I didn't want to say anything about it, but
like I did.
But they've been teasing this mech suit for months, and I was thinking, like, also with the rest of the people were thinking, Batman got so hurt that he wasn't going to be able to go out in normal anymore. Or it was going to be somebody who, after Batman disappeared or had to go somewhere, possibly Convergence may or may have something to do with it. I honestly, and I don't know if this is a big spoiler, I don't read much DC. I think I read like 2, maybe 3 titles right now. That's not the Batman family. But all in all we've been seeing is these hinted mech in the solicitations for months. We didn't know what that meant. And then a couple weeks ago, there was this tagline, "Are you ready to be Batman?" And we didn't know what that was until Batman 40 this week led up to Batman's death. And we're curious to know where this is going. And even though we're both non-Batman readers, we're curious to see where this goes. Because when they killed Batman, I think it was like almost 10 years
"Quote
ago.
unquote" killed Batman. Cause it wasn't 10 years ago. It was... It was the events of Final Crisis, which was the third and final crisis in the DC Crisis series. He was killed off by Darkseid, but he wasn't actually killed. He was like sent off into the future. It's really
he was sent off into the past and then or the future.
The thing is with comics in general, death isn't always sacred, and characters are brought back, or they're killed, or they're brought back again.
Yeah.
It happens continuously. Batman's only really been officially killed off. This makes for the second time.
Yeah.
I for one though I want to give it a shot just because the implications of having Jim Gordon he's still a cop.
Yeah.
And like he could have the entire like
He has a
police
license to kill
force.
people.
Could have the entire police force behind him. And there's a picture in this one article I read where he's got a gun. He's got a gun. And the thing is, and he's a cop, but the whole Batman image, Batman doesn't carry guns, but the Jim Gordon Batman does. So it's going to be very interesting to see. I want to see how it plays out.
How does the Batman family react to this?
Agreed.
Especially with Barbara, especially with Tim, especially Jason.
Yeah.
Jason, for one, is going to be pissed.
Yeah.
Jason Todd will be pissed.
Jason Todd will get pissed off at anything if he has an excuse to get pissed off at anything.
Yeah, especially when you think he'd go, okay, if it was Dick, I'd be okay with it. If it was even Damien for some god-awful reason, like the world was ending or something, he'd be okay with it. But now, Jason Todd, I want to see his reactions to this personally, and honestly, I would love to see a story arc where Jason deals with this completely.
Yeah.
Okay.
While we're on the DC talk, though, another big change that just recently happened was Lois Lane revealing Superman's civilian identity. And this...
It's kind of been leading up to that.
It's been leading up to it, but people have not been liking the change to Lois Lane's character in the New 52.
Gee, I wonder why.
The whole Lois Lane image just got flipped on its head, and people just do not like her in this light. And, I mean, because before New 52, Lois Lane and Superman were the power couple.
They were a power couple. They've been the power couple for years.
And New 52 threw it out the window because they wanted Superman to get together with Wonder Woman.
For some weird reason, I personally haven't liked it. I've seen things for them where it's like really, really pro Wonder Woman and Superman. And I'm kind of sitting here on the side going, I want this to end. I want this to end. And it's not stopping.
I personally don't mind it just because I was a fan of the Kingdom Come comics. Where
I was a fan of the Kingdom Come comics too.
Yeah.
But even so, it's kind of just been like, okay, like, Superman is with Wonder Woman now. Okay, that's a thing. Why drastically change and kind of trash Lois Lane's character just because she's not with Superman? It seems like they're really trying to find a place for her to go and find a place for her because who is Lois Lane without Superman? Who is Lois Lane without Superman? That's really been the big question that has kind of been riddling all New 52. Because when the New 52 started, we were all shocked at all the repercussions. Because Superman is not the same Superman that we've been seeing for several years. He's not the kind, gooder, Boy Scout Superman that we've been used to seeing. He is now this, for lack of a better term, a dick. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. It's just...
I mean...
It's sad to see. I'm just... It's one of those big changes that a lot of people are not a fan of. A lot of people just have not been a fan of the Superman stories in general.
Especially since he got that new God mode power a couple months ago.
Yeah, it Super Saiyan.
We call it Superman and Superman.
Yeah.
It's not great, but overall, hopefully we can get a grasp on this. But another cowl change that is massive, that massively rocked the Marvel Universe as we kick it over there. The Sam Wilson into, formerly the Falcon, into Captain America.
Which was a big, big change.
It was a big change.
That was out of, like, the way it happened was out of nowhere leading up to it.
They turned Captain America completely old, and he's still like this. And I don't read any big headliner team titles like Captain America, Iron Man. I don't Thor, except for that female one. I've been reading a little bit on her, but pretty much I don't read that. But I've been reading All New Invaders, where Captain America has been a prominent member of. And in All New Invaders, out of the blue, Sam Wilson is now Captain America, and Captain America's old. And pretty much what's just been going down is that they did a drastic change. Instead of going back to Bucky, but then again, in the Marvel Universe, Bucky is dead. Officially. He's been off the grid doing some underground things for Captain America that he needs done. But at the same point, they went with Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon, just when Falcon was getting up all this buzz around him. I mean, he was being more held prominently in animated series. He was being held more prominently in the movie series, and they made him Captain America instead of making him himself. And the repercussions of that, people have been liking it, people haven't been liking it. I personally have not been a fan of it, considering since we don't get to know Sam Wilson comic book wise. We get to know him as Captain America, Sam Wilson. And some people say, okay, that's two different things. Me personally, it's like, okay, we take Cap off the main fighting roster. He can start doing stuff that he should have been doing years ago, which we hoped we got out of the new Heroic Age, where he would take a more politician for superheroes out of the Civil War, Secret Invasion, Siege, House of M, all that jazz. And honestly, some people have been liking it. I personally have been liking it because they've been lording that image of Sam Wilson being Captain America over almost every comic I've ever seen. They changed the Mighty Avengers into Captain America and the Mighty Avengers. Which, the Mighty Avengers is one of the four Avengers titles. And part of that being is that the Mighty Avengers was like this street team of Avengers. Kind of how the new Avengers much were before the whole revamp and since Avengers vs. X-Men, yada, yada, yada. All that jazz. But since that change, we've pretty much just gone, okay, we're going to stick Captain America on the title to make this official. Luke Cage has been doing a great job leading that team until Sam Wilson comes out of nowhere and says, okay, by the way, I'm in charge of this now. It's really like they're trying to get the fans' seal of approval on Sam Wilson to make sure that he can just go. Whether we like it or not, he's there to stay.
Yep.
And then final topic from Marvel, Secret Wars. It's all...
Oh, are we not going to cover Iceman?
Oh, yeah. We almost forgot that.
So, quick. Because we want to get to Secret Wars. One of the big changes that also caught up a lot of buzz, especially on like social media and that, was the Iceman coming out in the comic books. But it wasn't specifically him coming out. It was Jean Grey calling him out on it.
Calling him out on it. But this is the weird thing. We get thrown into an interesting dynamic for this. In this dynamic, the Bobby Drake that went into his head, that Jean Grey went into his head, was the past Bobby Drake. The past Bobby Drake apparently came out as gay while during this. And this is a big shocker because we've seen... This is the past Bobby Drake, not the current Bobby Drake. We don't know anything about this. We don't even know if he knows. Or if he's been lying to himself for a long time. Because he seemed pretty happy. He's had successful relationships.
Yeah, he's had several successful relationships. It's the reasoning that Jean Grey gave was that essentially Iceman, when he originally grew up, it was a different time and age where being a mutant was one thing. Questioning your sexuality, you didn't even want to think about it because, I mean, people weren't accepting of mutants, let alone people of different sexualities, gender identities, stuff like that. For me, it was kind of weird, and I want to preface this by saying I am in complete support of, everything LGBTQQIAP.
I'm not going to say that when I have to make my thoughts, but I'm going to let him
say
it for me.
I am in complete support of that. But the way that it came about, it just seemed kind of forced.
It's the same thing for when they came... Well, not the same thing, because sadly, it's getting more attention than the previous one. It's the same thing as when DC made Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern, gay out of universe. And it's like Jordan said, we both support LGBTQ. I can't say it.
LGBTQQIAAP.
Thank you, Jordan.
You're welcome.
We both support that, but it just seems like they're trying to put it on their mainstream characters to use relevant ones. And as sad as that sounds, I mean, probably one of the most prominent gay characters in Marvel comic books, especially in the X-Men. Several X-Men members have dealt with this. The Ultimate Colossus was gay. The most prominent X-Men character who was gay is Northstar, a French-Canadian, pretty much has the powers of Superman, but not to the exact same level. And he also had the first gay wedding in comic book history, I believe. Or not comic book history, but Marvel history. He had the first gay wedding. It was a big deal. It was being pushed for months. I personally enjoyed it. I loved it. But it just seems like they're trying to put the seal of approval on for lack of a better term, the gay title, on a prominent hero versus building a new one, or uses one that they've had.
Which is a very difficult thing. And we fully realize that creating a new character is difficult. Creating a new character is one of the hardest things to do in comic books, especially in DC and Marvel, because you have such established characters that have huge histories. And that's why when you make these sudden changes to already established characters, it brings about a huge change in the mindset of people. I mean, when you change the person playing, or who's Captain America, when you're changing the person who is Thor, when you are changing the mind of Peter Parker so that it is Doc Ock in Peter Parker's body,
I don't forgive you, Dan Slott.
It's one of those things where there is going to be people.
There's going to be backlash.
There's going to be backlash. I mean, eventually people may come to accept these things. A Superior Spider-Man, to be honest, was actually one of the most
people
interesting.
Loved it. You can keep going.
Right, it was one of the most interesting Spider-Man comic series to date. It was because it was a completely different take on the character. I'm gonna leave it at that because we need to wrap things up.
We need to keep this going, but I just kind of want to make this one last thought. It's going to be an interesting dynamic going forward for Bobby Drake, purely because we do not know if both Bobbies are gay. There may be, the past Bobby's gay, but that affects the future one. Or, has Bobby always been gay, or did he do something to kind of get that off of himself? But that's a completely another story for another day. We'll listen.
And it's all contingent, too, on Secret Wars. What happens with that.
Secret Wars. For people who have not been reading or been paying up to date with Marvel comic books, or if you're just starting. Honestly, for people just starting and are interested in Marvel Comics, I'm not going to lie to you, this isn't trying as like a comic book veteran. I've only been reading comic books since 2008. If you're interested in reading comics and you're just starting, stop reading. Stop reading right now. And once Secret Wars is over, start reading that. Because we are going to have a completely new universe after Secret Wars. A combined universe between the previous Ultimate Universe and the current 60, 70 year strong Marvel Universe. They're going to be combined. And the ramifications of that pretty much have been hinted at since New Avengers. Since the New Avengers of the Illuminati. It's Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Namor the Submariner, Black Bolt. I think Xavier's in it, but I'm not even gonna play with that. And of course Iron Man. They have been trying to save the main Marvel Universe from being destroyed for months. They have been going behind people's backs, lying to people, destroying entire realities to save their own. And it's all been leading up to time runs out in New Avengers, in which everything they have done to this point has failed. So now we are going towards a new combined universe in Secret, but it all starts right before this in Secret Wars when the world comes to an end. So, what are your thoughts about this, Jordan?
It's interesting to me to see. I mean, because the whole reason why even, the Ultimate Universe was created was so that they could have different takes on the characters that they had. Because the thing is, Marvel's multiverse, it's not, I would say it's not as organized as DC's was. DC had it where you had a select number of universes. Like, it was normally 52. Whereas with Marvel, you have such a large number of multiverse or universes that they had to be realities where they had to be numbered. And
which
while
the
I will
comic book writers hate. They hate doing it. And the big two have been the main one and the Ultimate Universe, because the big famous thing for them to do, they'd start alternate realities and start building on the backstories in it, and then Marvel would stop them. Marvel 2099, MC2. There's probably another one that I'm not thinking of right now, but they'd start a universe and then just stop it abruptly. Like Amazing Spider-Girl went on for years. It went on for years, and it was the prominent MC2 title, and then it just stopped, and that was it. Meanwhile, Ultimate Universe, the thing that people love about it, and honestly, there are a lot of things that people love about it. It's a more modernized universe. It's a more realistic universe. In the Ultimate Universe, if you died, you stayed dead. Will that... And it's been stuff like that has been interesting people. Will that transfer over into the new combined universe? That's a big thought that has been plaguing me for years. Or not years, but like months since hearing about this, because if that's the case, we may never see Wolverine again. We may never see other characters who have been dead and then come back to life again. There'll be a permanent stop to Uncle Ben being dead. It'll be a permanent stop to Gwen Stacy being dead. All these dead comic book characters may remain dead if that type of mentality and that rule stays in place.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And like this was very similar to how, DC New 52 even came about, with how they decided, who gets to live, who gets to die, who changes their origin story, and who gets to keep their history. It's going to be interesting to see how the cards
I'm going to be, for the first time, I'm going to be reading an actual crossover event. I don't read crossover events. I wait till they end and then I can read them all at once. But this is the first time I'm going to be reading a crossover event, also tie-in titles, which I don't like doing, all at once. It's going to be a big, massive read. I'll talk about it at my panels when I do them. I won't do many spoiler alerts, but you're going to be hearing about this. Keep your eyes glued. We're going to move now to...
Alright, it is time to finally discuss Avengers. We went over on our time for comic books, so we're going to have about 18 minutes to discuss Avengers, which is still more than enough time.
Yeah.
So, for those of you that want to avoid spoilers, now is the time to either turn it off, leave the room, whatever you need to do so you don't hear spoilers, because the rest of the show is going to be all about Avengers.
It's all going to be about it. So, spoiler alert, get the heck away from the microphone. Take off your earbuds. Get out of the room. Turn off your speakers. Run for your life, because spoilers coming!
Wow. That was...
over excessive.
Oh, yeah,
Don't tell me what I can't do.
I agree with
spoilers
that
are coming. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we've given enough warning to anyone at this point.
Okay. Now for a moment, this is your moment of silence. Get away from the microphone. Get away
No,
from your computer.
we're good. They've gotten the message already. All right.
Spoiler alert. Here we go.
Avengers was friggin' awesome.
It was amazing. It was funny. It's still funny. It's not. People thought it was gonna be a crapshoot. It's not. It was amazing. There was clapping in our theater. First off, a big shout out to the people who are in our audience, especially me.
Did you just say especially you?
Especially me.
No,
Wow.
Especially not Darian, because I had to deal with Darian and Alan talking throughout the entire movie.
No,
Yeah.
I geeked out
just-
during certain parts, and Alan kept talking.
I kept on joking around. I kept on geeking out. I was especially geeking out with half the jokes and the techie
He
talk
wouldn't
going
stop
on.
talking, and
Iron
I kept
Man's
yelling at him to
suits
stop.
going on.
I calmed
Yeah.
down after a certain point, and you know I did. Stop giving me that look.
There were
You can't see it, but
there were
he's looking at me
several
with this look.
times where I had to say language because he would just shout out like an expletive, and I would be like, Darian, no, you shush.
Long
By the
story
way-
short, I saw the Vision lift Thor's hammer, and I lost it. Both Jordan and Alan had to calm me down.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. I mean, that was amazing though. Like
That was amazing.
one of the funniest jokes in the entire movie was when they were all sitting around a table, like laughing and shooting the crap, and just they're joking around and saying how Thor's hammer, can't lift the hammer. Everybody's trying. Like Captain America makes it wiggle, and Thor's face is
he freaked
priceless.
the heck. He freaked out for a moment. You saw the look on his face. He's like, wait. And for people who know the comic books, Captain America is one of the people who can lift that hammer. And he has that slit look, and he's like, oh, thank God, I'm still worthy.
Yeah, but like, and it's funny because even like toward the end of the movie, they make the joke. Well, what if you put it in an elevator? It goes up, doesn't it? So does that make the elevator worthy? So
no.
It's an elevator.
But, oh no, let's get to the actual movie plot. The movie plot is Tony done screwed up.
Yeah,
Tony does it, and Banner plays along with it.
For people just meeting Alan Sharpley, he's a massive Iron Man fan, and this is the movie where I tear Tony a new one because, God forbid, you don't mess with artificial intelligence unless you are prepared. Tony was not prepared.
They were not prepared. But I mean, and not only that though, there's that plot, but there's also plot resolutions for the other Phase 2 Marvel movies. And that's part of the reason why actually Joss Whedon is leaving, because he didn't like the fact that he had to wrap up plot points from Cap 2, Thor 2, and everything else.
Instead of leaving that door open for new stuff.
Because if you haven't seen certain movies from Marvel Phase 2 like I have, there are parts in the movie where you might be thinking, wait, why is this happening? Like why
is this a thing?
why is this relevant to the plot? And that's the reason why I would give the movie a 9 out of 10, is because there were just those brief moments where it was
stuff came up that not people coming to the franchise for the first time would have known.
Yeah.
And I agree with that.
That being said, the movie, I personally believe that the movie did a great job of introducing new characters and bringing back old characters. I want to flat out say the fact that they brought back both War Machine and Falcon, although Falcon had a very brief appearance, the fact that War Machine had such a presence in that movie,
even if it wasn't that much, it was great.
He had a presence in 2 of the major parts of the movie, where Ultron comes out the first time at the party, and during the huge fight scene, the climax of the movie. The fact that they actually brought him in and let him be a major part of it was fantastic.
It was the greatest part of the movie.
Well, I wouldn't say the greatest part of the movie.
It was for me, as a fan, getting another Avenger when we thought we were only getting 3 was great. That was the greatest part for me, because we didn't just get 1. Well, spoiler alert, we only got 3. Ladies and gentlemen, take a moment in silence.
For Quicksilver.
Quicksilver died.
And my thoughts on that, saw it coming.
Quoting Jordan Fay in this, Hawkeye threw up death flags throughout that entire movie.
Yes,
but what that did was distract
You're taking
everybody.
My talking points.
I will take your talking points. I'm actually going upon your talking points.
But it was my talking point.
Oh, stop it. But anyways, long story short, Hawkeye threw up death flags, but all it did, and he's making a face at me, stop it, it's done, it's over.
No, it was my talking point.
And all it did, all of those death flags for Hawkeye was distracting from the fact for Quicksilver. Quicksilver was not growing as a character in that movie as much as the Scarlet Witch was. And now I'll let Jordan talk.
So now we're going to let me talk about
now
my
we're
talking
listen
point?
Now, go.
Now?
You have to talk through the most part of this podcast.
So, that's true. Okay, but that was my big one. But anyway, so before this movie, my favorite Avenger was Captain America. In this movie, my favorite Avenger was Hawkeye, because this movie for Hawkeye was his redemption movie, where they gave Hawkeye so many great lines, so many great action scenes. It was fantastic. I mean, where everybody else is getting mind controlled, Hawkeye like takes an electric arrow to Scarlet Witch's head and is like, yeah,
Nope.
I'm not gonna get mind controlled again. I didn't
Well,
like
Never
it.
he went through
again.
that the
Never
first
again.
one.
If
Yep.
anything, what this movie did for Hawkeye was made him, I don't want to say the
Likeable.
heart, not likable, because he was likable by the end of the Avengers to an extent, but
They made him, if not
The
one
most
of the most
grounded-
important,
Yeah,
the
most-
important
Most
person in the
grounded
Avengers.
person.
he's the most
Yeah.
grounded character in the Avengers because out of the entirety of the Avengers, you have Tasha who's around the other Avengers so often. Hawkeye is the perfect human.
In a way, though, because of this movie, Natasha Black Widow is kind of an extension of Hulk, if you think about it.
Yeah.
In that she is an important factor of Hulk's control. And that's where, in a way, her character is kind of like lost. She's not as
It's not about her.
important. That's one of the unfortunate things, and that's what like a lot of people didn't necessarily like.
Everybody's
is that
been mad about it.
again, she's kind of pushed to the side. In this movie, she's the Hawkeye of the original Avengers.
Sadly.
She and Hawkeye kind of switch places. Hawkeye becomes very relevant, and Natasha just kind of slips on by.
She becomes what we all didn't want her to be, and that was the girl. That's what she became.
the girl that was like hopelessly in love, and
I'm gonna flat out say it, this is a ship I hate. I despise this ship. This ship should not be a thing. It shouldn't exist. And
that's
to be honest,
fair.
why does it exist?
I think it exists because nobody saw it coming. And Joss Whedon is a guy that likes to take risks and show us things that we didn't think were possible. And it, in a way, though, it presented an interesting case because Bruce Banner always feared the thought of having children. And Natasha can't have children. So it was one of those ways where Natasha thought it could work. She thought that everything could work out for them, and that at the end of the day, when everything was over, they could possibly move on. But the thing is, Bruce will
that's
not
Bruce
let
Banner.
him get close to anyone again because he is afraid of the
himself.
repercussion.
He's afraid of himself.
And like when he went on that rampage because of the Scarlet Witch, I think that is what set the wheels in motion for him saying that
I can't do this.
I can't do this.
And it's a big... Also, speaking of that rampage, let's take a solace in the fact that Tony finally built something that worked.
Right?
He built a Hulkbuster that actually put the Hulk down, even though it destroyed half a city.
That being said, though, I wanna make a very, very, very important parallel to how this movie was better than Man of Steel. In this movie, throughout the movie, they focus on saving as many civilian lives as they can, no matter what sacrifice comes their way.
Captain America, for example, is fighting off Ultron bucks while saving people's lives the entire time.
But on the Hulkbuster thing, though, before Tony puts him through that giant building under construction, he scans the entire building for any signs of life. When he is given the okay that there is no life, that is when he puts the pile driver down on Hulk and sends him smashing into the ground. It is after he sees that there are no human lives in there. Whereas in Man of Steel, how many thousands of lives were lost in that movie because of the
I
actions of
guarantee you, probably
Superman?
by Superman versus Batman, we're probably going to get like a bull crap title or amount of people.
Well,
that died.
it's Superman versus Batman: Dawn of Justice, correct?
Yes.
And that's the thing is where people are like, oh, well, that's why he wasn't called Superman in the first one. It's that he was Man of Steel, and that he'll learn in this one what it means to be Superman.
Blah blah blah. We're not talking about.
But we're not talking about that.
We're talking about.
I wanted to bring up that parallel because I thought it was very important.
It's a very
how
important parallel.
they focus so much on saving all of the civilian lives. They did not want to lose a single person.
But adding to that, beginning the whole point behind creating Ultron was which was repeatedly said by Tony, was to finally get the end game, the peacetime,
to put a suit of armor around the world.
That was the whole point behind him building Ultron. And Tony defends that view, even though he sees where he went wrong, he defends that view adamantly throughout the entire movie, and it leads back to conflict with Captain America and putting more seeds for Civil War, which after Ant-Man is our next Marvel movie. Yeah. For Civil War, it literally saw heroes semi-choose sides. You had Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver with Captain America, and you had Bruce Banner. I don't count Thor, even though he was responsible for the life of Vision, but you had Banner and Tony on one side, Captain America and his followers on another side. And it's really going to come into place come Civil War, where the whole of the Avengers is finally torn into. Where you just see Tony played God in this, and he'll say he's not, but this is where he can't see past himself. He can't. And it won't be until he really, really screws up in parallel to the comics where he'll finally see what he's doing. And long story short, Tony has to fall before he can get up. He really, really has to. So, and that may cost somebody's life.
Oh, very well could. So, Alan, anything that you wanted to bring up since you are our guest?
Just the idea that I enjoyed the movie, how there were so many cameos about it. We had Agent Carter in there. We had Rhodey in there. Everybody else. There were so many references left and right. I did love the Hulkbuster and just what the director did with the idea of going from Iron Man 3 when he was fighting the enemy of that one, knowing that his suits are so disposable that literally a good enemy coming up to him can just rip him apart. The fact that he had now thought of, hey, along with the Hulkbuster, let's have a floating armory above it, so that way when something like the Hulk is tearing me apart, I can quickly build myself back up to combat at whatever I'm facing. The fact that we see Tony scientifically learning from his past mistakes as an inventor, I enjoyed that very much.
Yeah, I can agree with that. The fact that the Hulkbuster was able to take on it wasn't the same arm either, I believe. It was a completely different armament where he had like the fast puncher.
Mm-hmm.
There
was one that shockwave and the fast puncher. Yep.
Long story short, it worked. And it's good to know that. And also, in contrast to Tony just building a Hulkbuster armor, he had Banner help him build that. Thank you, Veronica. Segovia loves you.
Yep.
I believe it's Segovia or some other tongue. No, Wakanda loves you. By the way, Wakanda was in this movie, and there was no Black Panther.
Yeah.
But it did set up stuff for that because the Claw, or whatever, Ulysses Claw was in this. So, and that's a major Black Panther villain. So that got set up in this. But I also want to talk, I know we talked about the heroes in this, I want to talk about Ultron.
Okay.
Ultron in this, surprisingly, and I say surprisingly, was not just robotic in this video. He was very, very human.
And very charismatic at that.
Very charismatic.
Like, he is one of the, in my opinion, he is one of the most effectively pulled off Marvel villains that we have had in all of the Marvel cinematic universe so far.
James Spader made a very great characteristic of Ultron, or characterization. There we go. A great characterization of Ultron, because he made him seem like a complete flawed human. I mean, he's not human.
Flawed, but improving. Always learning.
The idea, though, is when Ultron is theoretically just starting up his program, from when the program starts, you see a development of his character. It's like watching a child from the beginning of life to quickly learning, quickly adapting, quickly learning all of the resources that Earth has to offer and everything else. Playing around with the idea of evolution and humanity and everything else. He just toys around with the different idealisms with it. It's interesting to see because the most character development of a villain by far in a Marvel movie.
Yes.
And like you see it from the beginning of his life to the supposed end, where he is in the woods, like where the last like Ultron bot is confronted by
Hopefully the last
Vision.
Ultron bot.
Yeah.
And that's one of the other things is that while the death of Quicksilver was sad, and the death of Ultron was needed, there is that fear that
He'll come back.
that death is not necessarily sacred in the Marvel universe.
We honestly,
the cinematic universe.
Even in the cinematic universe, I do not want another Phil Coulson. I know for the fangirls listening to this, I talked to a few of it after I got out at work the other day. They want Quicksilver alive again because Quicksilver was awesome. I don't want Quicksilver back unless it's in another Marvel movie years down the line. I don't want to see him back. If it can be helped, I don't want to see him back because we gotta make death mean something in this universe. Because this is not a comic book. This is supposed to be realistic. Quicksilver needs to remain dead. Ultron, I want the idea of Ultron back, possibly coming back, and then quickly smited, just like it was in this movie. I don't want to see Ultron again.
You know, the only way, now that I think about it, that I would be okay with Quicksilver coming back, and I don't know if this is possible or not, is with the Soul Infinity Stone.
That I could be okay with. Also, we found out after going over it ourselves, there are only 2 Infinity Stones left.
Because 4 of them have been revealed, which were Mind, Power, Reality, and
I went off the page.
Space.
Yeah.
Space.
Yep, space.
The 2 that are remaining are Soul and Time,
Which
and there
leads us
are
to Phase 3?
several implications that could be made for either of the 2, and how that they will be incorporated in Phase 3, leading up to Infinity Wars.
Which is where we're going to go next. Phase 3, for people who do not know, I'm bringing it up right now. We have one more movie before Phase 3.
Which is Ant-Man, which is
Ant-Man.
the actual end of Phase 2.
Which is the actual end. And hopefully, the end of Age of Ultron leads with new Avengers coming in, which we almost didn't touch upon. We have now War Machine. We now have Falcon. We now have
Scarlet Witch.
We now have Vision.
And then we have Captain America and
Black
Black Widow coming back.
Now,
And Hawkeye is, I would say, a maybe.
he's definitely, because he's signed on for Civil War.
Yeah.
So, next going forward, what I'm guessing will happen, and I hope it happens immediately with Ant-Man, is Captain America goes on a recruiting spree. Because, honestly, I think that we can get a better roster than what we saw at the end of this movie, rather than the people we saw. No offense to the people that were in there, especially since Scarlet Witch, coming out of the end of the movie, had completely shifted. She's not wearing makeup anymore. She's completely ready for fighting.
Well, and like that being said, though, the choreography with the fights, where everyone was involved, was amazing
Perfect.
to view. Like from the start of the movie, where they had the really like cheesy
jump
they're all
towards the battle.
jumping in the same frame, to where they're all defending the core from the Ultron bots getting to it. It was amazingly done. And like to think of like the scale of what could be done with a team of like 10 or more Avengers.
The thoughts are just endless. But we're moving on to Phase 3 because we want to get on that before we wrap up.
Well, yeah, we need to finish up because we need to wrap up.
Phase 3, like I said, after Ant-Man, our first movie, which ironically is starting off Phase 3, is Civil War. And for people who
Very
know,
interesting.
Civil
to start
War
off.
is going to tear the Marvel Universe in two. And FYI, Civil War is going to tie in not only with Captain America, it's going to do the same thing it did for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 1, where both are going to tie into that series, and the repercussions are going to get off that.
And it's bringing in Spider-Man.
It's bringing in Spider-Man. There's an entitled Spider-Man film set for July 28th, 2017. After Civil War is going to be Doctor Strange, which we will probably find out one of the other Infinity Stones. It's probably the best place for it to happen.
It would make the most sense for Doctor Strange to get it, and it it would be either soul or time. And to me, I think he would actually get time over soul. That's just my guess.
We'll find out.
But we'll find out.
After that is Guardians of the Galaxy 2, in which probably will have more Thanos.
Yes, but for sure, like, they're gonna go on a quest to meet Star-Lord's father.
Yeah.
And so he learns about who he is.
Yeah. So, and then after that is a Spider-Man film we just referenced, in which Jordan and I have both found out Spider-Man will finally be going back to that 16-year-old Spider-Man who's still in school.
And the thing is, we're probably not getting an origin story Spider-Man here, because if they're going off of what they have with the Marvel Cinematic Universe that they are making, then the Spider-Man movie that we're going to get is going to be a continuation of Civil War, if I'm correct.
Hopefully.
Because making an origin story after the fact would be kind of weird. Not to mention,
irrelevant.
We've already had 2 Spider-Man origin movies in the past, 15 years, if not less?
Yeah, but moving on. Then the big question, and this is a question film for me. Thor Ragnarok. Now, during the Civil War, and this is probably why Thor won't be in Civil War or won't be heard of until Infinity War, which is the movie following Ragnarok, will bring into question Thor possibly even being alive for Infinity War. Because during Ragnarok, during the comic book series, and where we honestly left off to the cinematic universe, Loki is the king of Asgard, hiding under the guise of being Odin. And from what I already know, and what we saw at the end, the mid-credits scene, it's a mid-credits scene, people, not a post-credit scene, for Avengers Age of Ultron, is Thanos doing the conquering, taking the stones for himself, by himself. So, as people know what Ragnarok is in Norse mythology, it's the end of the world. So, will Thor even be alive? Or, if Thor even wins, Thanos might just show up and take the stones that he has immediately. And then, after Ragnarok, leads into Infinity War, Part 1. Quote-unquote Part 1. And I am just being corrected in this. Black Panther and Captain Marvel, in that exact order, will be following Infinity War, not before it. So
really,
yeah. So honestly, we're only getting probably. So what I'm hoping is that in between Infinity War, we can incorporate the characters during Infinity War a little bit, because especially Captain Marvel, you can't do an Infinity War on this scale of what it's supposedly be for Avengers and not include the Kree. And that's how Captain Marvel will become to be. Black Panther will probably still be on Earth doing whatever it is he's doing. And then we get Infinity War Part 2, May 3rd, 2019. We're doing a Harry Potter here. And for people who were thinking this, Inhumans comes after Infinity War. So they will most likely not be involved. So I know all this build up to the Inhumans we've had in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been leading to this, but that's most likely not going to be the case. Infinity War, we want to talk ideas and stuff for that. We really got to cut it off here. We'll get to this in I want to say 2 weeks.
We'll see.
I
mean, that being said, I let it go a little over an hour for this time because we had so much to talk about with this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, again, absolutely fantastic. I give it a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
Yeah, seriously, 8, 9 easily.
It's just fantastic. If you haven't seen it already, then why did you listen to this?
Why are you listening?
Why are you still here?
Put down this podcast, get in your car, and go to the theater and watch this movie. It's waiting for you. It is your soulmate in cinematic.
I mean, even if you have seen it,
go see it
again. See what you might have. See what you missed.
See what you might have missed.
If you were paying attention to a certain character that.
Or if you haven't seen any of the series before, go back, watch the other films, get caught up to date with this, and then go watch it.
Yeah. I saw the original Avengers 3 times, I believe, in theaters, which was a record for me.
3 times over here, me too.
Yeah. So, go and see it multiple times. let's break some records here.
Yeah.
That being said, we're wrapping things up.
Like we said, we're gonna be at ASEN in 2 weeks, so come and find us.
I'll be at the Midwest Voiceover Conference this weekend. Darian and Alan are gonna be at Midwest in July. I will not. I will be in Florida. That's still a ways away.
Geekon's still a ways away.
Geekon's even farther away. But
just so you know, ASEN, we're gonna be there. Come find us. We want to talk to you. We want to hear what you guys want us to talk about.
Yeah, we'll give you guys a schedule of what we're doing and that. So we'll let you know.
If I'm not with Jordan, just ask Jordan to come find me. He's already given out my number to a female before.
Because I'm the wingman.
Yes, he is.
Call me a Falcon, because I'm the wingman. With that, I'm Jordan.
I'm Darian.
And I'm Alan.
Thanks for tuning in to the Dork List.
We love you, dorks.
Platonically.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.